Now it's time for Inspirational Women, and my guest, Linda Olson, the founder of Wealth Through Stories. She offers workshop opportunities as we look to tell our own stories. Linda's also a TEDx speaker, and she's joining us now. Linda Olson, good morning, and thank you so greatly for being with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. My pleasure.
This is really wonderful. It's so perfect talking about stories in terms of this work, the conversations that I do have with guests such as yourself, because I think of them as relaying life concepts, topics, things that are important through story. Because aren't stories a way that we really are able to have a better connection, a better understanding of each other?
Absolutely. I think stories are really the number one way that we connect with one another. And something that somebody said recently I never really thought about is we think in stories because those stories take us to a special moment, often a turning point in our life. And we don't think in terms of events. We think in moments, and those moments are those experiences. They are our story.
And when we do recognize that, even if some of them are painful, I think they're just invaluable. I'm going to call them precious. The things that we have learned, what we've experienced in our lives, these stories that then are those moments.
You know, you're exactly right. And you said the key word in what you just said to me was it's about what we learned through it. What we learn through even the painful experiences, that's what makes a difference, because that's what we can then turn around and share with others as long as we embrace and learn from it, as opposed to getting stuck in our stories.
And might we go even a step further and say that we really learn and grow more from those more painful experiences than things that were so fun. I mean, fun is good, but those kinds of things are great. But the real learning, doesn't it come from the challenges we face and how we deal with it and what we become as a result?
Absolutely. Those stories that represent either pain or conflict or problems. And like I said, as long as we embrace those become often the turning points in our life. They are the depth of our growth. They are what produces a character in our life. And yes, the fun stories are often inspiring, and we need that as part of our life. But the real growth happens through the painful stories.
So as you encourage others in writing their stories, how do you go about that? Do you suggest or guide going to those painful moments?
You know, very often people will come to me and say, I know I have a story. I believe I have a story, but I have no idea how to tell this story. And I don't even know for sure what it is. And so often I will take them back and say, tell me, if you can, tell me about the most painful moment in your life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they will say, I'm just not ready to talk about it. And I said, that's okay. Then tell me about a painful moment that you are ready to talk about, because we all have more than one. Mm-hmm. And so I will take them back to what they're ready to respond to. And I said, just tell me about that. And sometimes within a short period of time, I'll say, that's your story right there. And we'll just ask, so now tell me, what did you learn from that experience? And I said, that's your story right there. And so with writing, I do both helping people tell their story as well as write their story. And often they say, oh, people have told me for years I need to write a book, this and that. And I said, yeah, it's easy for them to say, isn't it? And they said, I'd like to write a book, but I don't know where to start. And although I've helped a number of people in writing their book, I said, the best place to start is actually to just write your story in a chapter rather than the whole book. The whole book is so overwhelming. I said it's a big investment of time, energy, and money. And if you can start with bringing clarity to your story through a chapter, then we can look at a book after that. And it's the same thing in telling the story. One of my specialties is helping people tell stories in 2 minutes or less. And the reason I focus on that is because our attention spans are so short these days that if we go on to 4, 5, 8, 10 minutes or whatever, we've likely lost the person that we're talking to. Oh, they may still be looking at us and staring like a deer in the headlights, but, their mind is someplace else. So we have to keep our stories short.
Yes. All the advertising, all media and commercials, they've certainly done that kind of a number on us.
Yes, that's true. They have. They trained us.
Yes, that's the training. Was this an experience for yourself? Because you are the author of a number of books, Linda. Did you think in terms of, I'm going to write a book, or did it start with writing stories?
You know what? I had never considered writing a book, and particularly my own story. I had not once considered it until I came to complete healing in my story. And then I knew I needed to write my story, write a book. And as it came, I had an interest in writing, and I actually, much before that, probably 10, 15 years before that, and I would actually attend a number of writers' conferences to learn how to write. And I wrote, it was kind of a challenge for me to see if I could get some published articles. And I actually had quite a few published. But the whole idea of a book, I think, was probably overwhelming for me. And so I hadn't considered that until I was ready. And that was, like I said, until the healing came in my own story.
And that is such an important story in itself. I think about people who know they're a writer and that, that's what they pour themselves into, is writing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, historical works. But writing our stories, writing as you have written, and the way it evolved, is, I feel, so significant because it shows that it's a journey. Our life is a journey, and what you have reflected in this being your career, it's all unfolded, and as you say, because of the healing that did go on in your life, and only as you took the steps did the next window or door open to move on. Does that seem accurate?
Yes, it is accurate, very much so. And it's when the healing happens, that's when, of course, we have a whole lot more to share. But one of the differences, and it's like there's been a huge paradigm shift in almost everything, but when I think about particularly in writing and in speaking, because so often, for example, in writing, we're writing from our passion, and that is important. But what's even more important is writing to the needs of our target audience, the people that we want to reach. It's like, what are they really needing to hear? And when we know that, then we can speak to, through our writing, we can speak through that need and convey it through our story. But that's a very different approach than before. We would, write or speak from our passion. Well, when we've kind of exhausted that, then what do? Oh, well, I guess I have to find another book to write. And that process can lead us to burnout quickly. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, if we're writing to the needs of people, we just find out what those needs are, and then address them, and like I said, but to personalize them and know that we're connecting to their need, that happens best through our story. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I hope it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on this journey, as you were healing and beginning to write, it was revealed to you. God spoke to you to say what, Linda? What is it that was going to be your journey in terms of connecting with people?
Well, he really spoke to me initially and said, now it's time to write your book. And that ended up being a 4-year process to actually write it and get it published. And then he said, and now I'm going to give you your new mission. And I was kind of taken back with that. And I remember clearly just kind of leaning back and taking 2 steps back. And I said, okay. And he said, I want you to impact 1 million people a year through story. And I thought, 1 million people? I mean, that just felt so overwhelming for me. And I said, I have no idea how that is going to happen, but I do know that if this is my new calling, I will do everything I can to embrace it and lean on you to just show me step by step what I'm supposed to do.
There's so much that is beautiful about this because the choice is definitely there. One could say, are you kidding? 1 million? There's no way that can happen. And the answer basically is no. And maybe the call comes again in a year or 2 years and it comes, with a little stronger knock or whatever it is. But because you said, okay, trust, any of us then learn, put your trust there, accept, and it will unfold. It's like the doors and windows open as you progress along, because no doubt you're doing that now.
You know what? It's been so exciting. That was about 6 years ago, just over 6 years ago. And it's truly been so exciting as the pandemic hit. One of my goals that year, which was, I believe it was 2 years ago, one of my goals was to relaunch my 3 bestsellers. And so I thought, well, I can still do that. I don't need to allow anything to stop me. And so I did. I relaunched my 3 books and had actually hired a publicist to help me get into the media. So whether that's podcast, radio, television, so forth. Well, by the end of the year, by October, I realized I had been on about 40 or 50 podcasts, radio, 3 major television shows, and many of these had over 1 million viewers, just like one podcast or one radio show. And television, one had over 65 million, and the other one reaches live streams to 161 countries. And so it was like, come October, I thought, you know what, this is happening. This is so exciting. And then I always knew in the back of my mind, this wasn't just about me reaching these people on my own through story. It was about reaching out to others and help them to reach 1 million people. Together we reach 1 million people through story. And so I thought, now I have a new pathway. And that was actually when I decided to begin my an anthology series. And I just did the first series this year called Story Matters, Empowering Your Hope While Going Through Tough Times. And there's 7 women who have written their heartbreaking stories, but each one of them have risen above and come to victory. And it's been so exciting because I now, like for yourself, and this is how we connected, and that is have been on many different podcasts, radio, and television, and doing the marketing for 6 months on this book. And there have been incredible doors that have opened. So it's really, truly been a very exciting journey.
So there it is. I almost get these, goosebumps that it's so thrilling to see how what we could think of as, oh, that's impossible. How am I ever going to do that? Having faith, putting your trust in God in this case with the leading, the prompting, look what happened. You perhaps a publicist would have devised it all for you, but even that's, a big question mark. But to me, it's just it's such a great story in itself, how all of this has evolved.
Well, and the fun part is, it's always about stepping forward and taking the risks. That's hard, because even in the publicist, it was a big investment for me, and I had received an email from this publicist probably 5 years earlier, and for some reason I saved that email, and I thought, you know what, I think it's time to check this out. and I was ready, I was finally ready to make that investment. And so whether it was, moving forward with my retreats or getting on the TEDx stage or investing in other programs or, whatever it is, like I said, it's always a risk. But to me, it was a step of faith, and it is a step of faith each time. And you move forward, you learn what you can. Some things work out better than others. But in each case, I've just stepped forward, and then the most unexpected opportunities come through.
Right.
And, it's so fun.
It's so exciting. And I think that's what we have the experience of discovering in this latest compilation, Story Matters, Empowering Your Hope While Going Through Tough Times, Inspirational Stories, that here there's something that we can relate to, and how each of these women, one of them being yourself in this anthology, what it does, and we might see a piece of ourselves and how we might be encouraged. So there's just so much of value here for us. So again, you're reaching people and helping lives be transformed, Linda.
Well, thank you. It truly is one of the greatest joys of my life is to see that transformation and to help someone with their story and to move forward. And just to give you a little background, my background is actually a marriage and family therapist. Mm-hmm. So when this whole idea of story came forward, and I thought, wait a minute, I've been helping people with stories for years. It's just in a different way.
Yes.
And to me, that seeing that change, seeing that transformation, and seeing them, go out with such joy and such hope and excitement, knowing that whether they're a speaker, whether they're a writer, or whether they want to pursue some of these careers, that I could have a small piece in helping them move forward. And yeah, like I said, it's truly one of my greatest joys.
And we are, I'm going to say, the grateful recipients of it, should we choose to pick up a copy of the book, read the stories, and you don't have to read them sequentially. You read them as you open up the book and come to a chapter and read that one. So it's one of those kinds of great books to read. It opens up to where you need it at the time, potentially.
Yes, thank you. And, it's truly because I didn't even realize when I wrote this, I don't think, the timeliness of it, because, all of our stories have changed in these last few years. And, like I said earlier, it's what we do with that change. We always have a choice. We can stay stuck in our story, or we can do our best to embrace the hard times, the negative things, the losses, everything that has hit us, see what we can learn from it, and move on. And, of course, that's when the real growth happens. Mm-hmm. But we all connect with pain, problems, and conflict. And even though the stories in this book may be very different, they're all very different stories, and there may only be one that somebody connects to, but they will connect with at least one, if not several, because the circumstances may be different, but we all connect through pain today.
Yes. Yes, we do. Sadly, but that's our earthly experience. Yes. That is one of the major connectors we have. And to work through that. So you were mentioning how you have these retreats, and there is one that's going to be coming up in the fall. And it's just always good to have some of this lead time because it may take a little bit of planning and thinking and arranging. So tell us about the retreat that's coming up.
Oh, yes, thank you. I would love to. My retreats, they're 2 days retreats, usually Friday and Saturday. And this one coming up in the fall is October 7th and 8th. And my retreats are very experiential. We generally work with a small group, but we go often, kind of from one experience to another. And I really believe it's through experience that we learn the most and remember the most. And to me, that's what story is all about. Story is an experience. So we will go from the basic introduction to what story is and why it's important, and I will guide you step by step. And by the time we're done, we've probably gone through 6, 7, 8 stories that we go home with. And one of the things that I incorporated last fall was to tell a 1-minute story, to tell our 1-minute story. And there's so much power in being able to do that, to be that concise, and it brings so much clarity. So that's definitely something I'm going to include. I usually do some new things every year. And so it's just a fun experience. And there are many people that come and say, I'm not even sure if I have a story. And I said, well, that's okay. Just come, because I'll tell you what, before you leave, you will be confident that you have a story. And it's so fun to just see that transformation. And I've had many people tell me, they said, wow, we have never been to anything like this. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain because it is an experience. But, yes, so fun. And, yeah, that's what it's about.
And so, to find out more, to register, to get more details, where shall we direct our listeners?
Go to my website, which is wealththroughstories.com, and it's all spelled out. Wealth through, THROUGH, stories.com. And on the icon there at the top, on the home page, just click on Story Retreat. And that will give you more information. I was going to do a March retreat, and I don't think I've changed my dates yet. But there were a bunch of people that wanted to come, but they all wanted to come for the fall. And so I rescheduled the March retreat until October. So in case those dates aren't changed, just know if you register, I will have you down for October, and I'll try and get those changed as soon as I can as well. And the other thing I want to tell you, that if you get a copy of the book, at the back of the book, whether it's this book or any of my other books, there's a $100 coupon towards a retreat. And so it will give you the coupon code at the back of the book, and then you can just put that in. And the whole thing, the retreat is valued at $997. My fee is $297, but of course with the coupon code that reduces it to $197. So it's very feasible, especially in planning ahead like this. And just know I would love to have you.
And the timing is perfect too, because this 2 years of incubation or hibernation or whatever it's been for each of us differently, it might have a source of a lot of stories, and undoubtedly it does.
Yes, it does. Absolutely. We all have new stories because of what we've experienced the last 2 years. And I'll tell you, everybody's just ready to get out and enjoy life again. And this is a great way to do it.
It is definitely a great way. And, I was prompted even just preparing to speak with you, thinking about story, and something that years and years ago I came across because I did take a storytelling class. So it wasn't writing, it was telling. But a story that the instructor shared with us was called a Hasidic tale, which is so critical because this shows us the long history of story and how that's how life and wisdom was passed along, was through story. And the story is set in Europe, where an old Jewish rabbi, a Hasidic rabbi, knows that he needs to go to the forest and build a fire and say some special prayers when there were troubles facing his village. And when he did this, God listened and God saved his people. Well, when he died, the next rabbi came along. Well, the rabbi went through the steps but didn't know the prayers. He died, the next rabbi came. He knew to go into the forest, but he didn't know anything else. It was just this was the place. And he died, the next rabbi, faced with challenges in the village, said, God, I don't know where to go, but all I know is to tell you that this is what is happening to your people. And once again, God listened and God saved his people. And
Wow.
it just touched me so deeply that, even all these really decades later, I'm still remembering this story because it felt so significant.
Wow, that's a great example. Yeah, the whole idea of, stories, I mean, it's nothing new. It's been around for thousands of years. But somehow I think we've just kind of woken up to the importance of stories. And now, we hear whatever we, turn on, or a commercial or whatever it is we're listening to, we hear people use the term story because story is about connecting, and your story so clearly reveals that. It's a great way to connect, and it's what we remember. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
After all these years, that's what touched your life, and that's what you remember.
Mm-hmm. And that is what you're helping us to do, too, is to realize that this waking up, it's the caterpillar coming out as the butterfly kind of symbol, potentially. That's the what we can think of experiencing when we look inside ourselves for that story and to share it.
Yes, and I believe that everyone has a story, and it's not just any story, it's a story that can transform lives. Because I hear many people say, well, a lady came up to me after I spoke at an event, and she said, I don't think I have a story. I've really had a pretty boring life. And she was about to come to my next event. She had already signed up, and I just said, I'm so glad that you're coming to the event because I think you'll be surprised. And at the first break, she just about ran up to me. She was so excited. She said, I not only found my story, I found my purpose. And, that's what stories do.
Yeah. Oh, it's life-giving. There it is. There's the butterfly in all of it.
And I do use that symbol, by the way.
Really?
Butterfly, yes, because, to me that's symbolic of transformation, and that's what stories do.
Yes, they do. And, Linda, this has just been so amazing, so wonderful. What a great way to start the day, or at any part of the day if someone's listening to the podcast. Just what an inspiration, what a gift it is that this exists within us if we haven't tapped into it, that you're giving us this opportunity. Certainly check out the website. Once again, let's mention that, Linda.
Yes, it's wealththroughstories.com. And on there, also on my home page, if somebody wants to connect personally, I offer a free 20-minute story strategy session. And you can always sign up for that, and I'll be happy to talk to you personally. And it doesn't matter. Even if you don't think you have a story, or if you know you have a story but you just don't know what to do or where to go with it, I'd be more than happy to talk with you.
Another gift. Well, this has been so wonderful. Linda Olson, you are truly so special and so great in this world. I thank you so much for taking this time with us this morning.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
That brings us to the end of a very full hour of Inspirational Women with Linda Olson and Sunday Morning Magazine with Elaine Park. I'm Kate Daniels, your host, and I greatly appreciate your sharing this hour with me and these special guests. For details you might have missed or information you'd like to know, please just send me an email, kated@warm1069.com, and I will get right back to you. Also, if you'd like to listen again or share these important stories with your family and friends, find the podcast on our Warm 1069 webpage. Just click on the podcast tab, then either of the show names, and then look for the guest names. I now wish you and your family a day of creating peace within ourselves and then sharing it with the world. Have a week of the same, and then please plan to join me again next weekend for another hour of Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women on Warm 1069. Good morning.